So we have our awesome logo. Now let's create our awesome mobile navigation. Right now we have this desktop or tablet navigation, if you will. Now let's try resizing the browser window to see how it works right now. I'm resizing and we have our hamburger menu pop up. Okay, now what we want to do is when the viewport shrinks, like if you're seeing it on a small tablet or a big or small mobile phone, we want, if we click here the hamburger icon, the sidebar or an off-canvas menu to appear out of here. Now fortunately AMP already has a component for that. It is called AMP sidebar. Okay, what we're gonna do first is we're gonna go to AMP by example, go to the sidebar page, and here they have a very nice introduction. And basically what we're looking for is something like this. See, toggle sidebar, and it appears. This is what it's called an off-canvas menu, or an off-site menu, if you would. It has a lot of names. And we click it, and then you can close it on the buttons. Now let's try to recreate this sidebar in our site. First thing we want to do is get the AMP sidebar component. So no, we don't want that. We want to go back to our text editor. Okay, we have included the AMP sidebar component. Now we need to add the sidebar itself. Let's start coding. Now the sidebar must only be a direct descendant of body. So we have header here. So we need it after the header, it should be fine, since it will be direct descendant of body. You cannot have AMP sidebar in any other element. It sounds simple, but I have put it in many elements. I wasn't supposed to put it in, so that taught me a lesson. Okay, so the element we're looking for is AMP sidebar, and let's give it an ID of sidebar. Original, I know. Now let's give it a layout of no display, because we don't want it to appear if the user is viewing the site on a bigger viewport. Okay, let's close this off temporarily. Now the site attribute is which site do you want the off canvas to appear. See, on our site right now, let me open it up. On our site right now we have the hamburger, or the toggle button, if you will. We have it on the right side. Okay, so we want the side attribute value to be equal to right. You can also have it left. That's the only two values it appears, but we want it to be on the right. Now, a lot of sites for their mobile layouts, they have the menu on the left and the logo, they either have it in the center or on the right. But this is wrong, because humans expect the logo to be on the left, and whenever sites move it to the center, to the right, or any other position, people don't notice it, so it's bad user experience. So this is my rule of thumb: always put the logo on the left and the menu on the right on mobile, or even if you're on desktop. So we're gonna follow conventions and do the right thing. And I know it looks really trendy to have the logo in the center, but please don't do that. It's just bad UX. Just Google positioning the logo and you see a lot of results that says it's wrong. Okay, so we want, when we click the hamburger button, the off canvas to appear. So we're building the sidebar, and that's pretty much it for the sidebar. Now the interesting thing is, let's close off this element. All the content that you want to appear once you open the sidebar must be in between the opening and the ending sidebar element. So let's try to put some example attributes to see if it works. Okay, so now we have the sidebar and it's perfectly functional. Everything seems cool. However, we need to invoke it. Right now it is not displaying. If we go back to our site, the sidebar is nowhere to be seen because we're looking at the desktop. And even if we go here, oh, it's actually working. I forgot that I put earlier the triggers that needs to be put. Okay, let's talk a little bit about triggers. Remember earlier when I told you that AMP has a component called AMP bind, which produces JavaScript-like syntax, but no really, but kind of acts like JavaScript? Well, we're gonna need AMP bind here. And what we're gonna do is, in order for the sidebar to work, let's go. let's go over here. See, right now it's not working. We only have the hamburger icon. So what we're gonna need is, we need the ID of the sidebar, which is sidebar. Then we need the button that's gonna be used to trigger. In this case, we're gonna use the hamburger button, which has the ID of hamburger. So we're gonna use the on attribute. Now the on attribute is an amp attribute that connects amp bind. Kind of like, remember how in the mid 2000s and the 90s, again, you had on-click, on-load attributes that you used on various elements in order to hook them with JavaScript functions? Well, that's exactly what this is, but it's a little bit different. So let's do on-tap, which is Google's AMP's version of on-click. On-tap, we're gonna do this sign. We're gonna use the sidebar ID, which is sidebar, and then we're going to add dot open. Okay, now let's see if that works. Let's switch over to our sidebar. Let's refresh the page. Yay, it seems to be working. Very nice. Now let's recap what we did. We added another attribute called on, and we said on tap or on click, on press button, do this action, which is sidebar, which is the ID of sidebar dot open. Now this is like a magical function, if you will, that changes the sidebar's style attribute. So you have that slick animation over here, and now you can close it even if you click somewhere on the side, or you can also close it with the escape key, which is one of the reasons I really love AMP sidebar, since it is accessible, and this is a big deal. Coding an accessible off-canvas menu is really taxing. Okay, but right now our sidebar has just some list items that aren't really doing anyone any good. Well, good news is that you can put any kind of content that you want in AMP sidebar. We're going to be putting our menu. So let's go over here where our menu is, and let's copy this unstyled list, or unordered list if you like. Let's copy it. Remember, all the content of the sidebar must go between the opening and the ending tags. Okay, now let's save it and try it out. Yay, it's working. Right now it doesn't look the best that it should look, but the important thing is it's working. Now what we want to do next is we want to add like a nice button over here that says close sidebar or close menu. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go in my sidebar and I'm going to put a button, and I'm going to say close menu. All right, and then I'm going to use the on function or attribute that we used before, and I'm going to say on tab sidebar dot close. Now let's try to see if it works. Refresh. Okay, we have our awesome menu over here. Now let's try to close it. Voila. So the way the magic works here is also because the sidebar attribute, it supports the side and the layout, no display. So this is one of the reasons you can also play with it with AMP bind. But that's pretty much it. That's how you make an off-canvas navigation with AMP. Now, the way it works is the problem is with this approach is you need two navigations. So I have the main navigation, which is this one that it appears on the bigger viewport, and I also have the sidebar navigation, which appears on a smaller viewport. And the way I did this is over here I said, okay, if the maximum width of the viewport is 768 pixels, then don't display the primary navigation. So I'm basically hiding it via CSS, but it's working and it's responsive. And instead of a button, you can use an SVG icon, and you can use it the same way. Just put SVG and use the on tap attribute, and it's gonna work great. Something like this. Like imagine this is an SVG icon for like the cross that indicates closing. Just do this, and you'll be good to go.